Have you ever wondered why some people naturally inspire trust, why others follow them willingly, and why certain individuals leave a legacy that survives long after they are gone? Because true leadership has never been about power, it has never been about titles, and it has never been about controlling people. In fact, some of the most influential leaders in history never held positions of authority, yet people listened to them, believed in them, and followed them. Why? Because leadership is not something you are given, it is something you earn. And perhaps the greatest misunderstanding in modern society is that leadership belongs only to politicians, CEOs, and famous figures. But the truth is, every parent is a leader, every teacher is a leader, every entrepreneur is a leader, every friend who inspires others is a leader. Because leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. But influence is fragile. Trust is fragile. Respect is fragile. And many people spend years trying to gain these things without understanding the laws that govern them. Because leadership, like nature itself, obeys principles, timeless principles, principles that separate those who merely occupy positions from those who truly change lives. And perhaps the quality of your life will ultimately depend on the quality of the leader you become. Because before you can lead others, you must first learn to lead yourself. And that journey begins now. Leadership begins. Within many people believe leadership starts when others begin following them. But that belief is wrong. Leadership begins long before anyone notices. It begins in private, in the decisions nobody sees, in the promises you keep to yourself, in the habits you build, and in the standards you refuse to compromise. Because before you can earn the trust of others, you must first earn your own. And perhaps this is why self-leadership is so rare. It requires discipline, it requires responsibility, and above all, it requires honesty. Because the hardest person to lead is often yourself. Most people want influence, but few people are willing to develop the character required to sustain it. They want authority without responsibility, respect without integrity, results without sacrifice. But leadership does not work that way, because people may follow your position temporarily, but they follow your character permanently. And character is built when nobody is watching. Every choice matters. Every habit matters. Every promise matters. Because your life is always speaking louder than your words. And whether you realize it or not, people are watching. Children are watching. Friends are watching. Colleagues are watching. And they are learning more from what you do than from what you say. Because leadership is not taught, it is demonstrated. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is that the person you become will determine the people you inspire. Because leadership begins within, and from there, everything else follows. The law of influence. There is something fascinating about influence. It cannot be bought, it cannot be demanded, and it cannot be forced. Because true influence is one of the few things in life that must be earned. And yet, many people spend their lives chasing authority, titles, status, recognition, believing that these things will make others follow them. But authority and influence are not the same. Authority may control behavior, but influence changes hearts, and hearts are where true leadership begins. Think about the people who have changed your life. Perhaps it was a teacher, a parent, a friend, a mentor, or someone who believed in you when nobody else did. Chances are, they never forced you. They never demanded your loyalty. And yet, you trusted them, you respected them, and because of that, you listened. Because influence is built on trust, and trust is built on consistency. People do not trust perfection. They trust authenticity. They trust integrity. They trust those whose words and actions agree. Because nothing destroys influence faster than hypocrisy. People can forgive mistakes, but they struggle to trust inconsistency. And perhaps this is why influence takes years to build and only moments to lose. Because trust is fragile, and once broken, it is difficult to restore. But influence is not merely about trust, it is about connection. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And perhaps this is where many leaders fail. They focus on being admired instead of being understood. They focus on speaking instead of listening. They focus on authority instead of empathy. But human beings long for connection. They want to feel seen, heard, valued, and respected. Because influence grows where people feel understood. And perhaps that is why kindness is powerful, why humility is powerful, why encouragement is powerful. Because influence is rarely created through intimidation. It is created through service. The greatest leaders understand something extraordinary. Leadership is not about being above people. It is about lifting people, not about receiving honor, but about creating value, not about controlling lives, but about improving lives. Because people naturally move toward those who make them better, and away from those who make them smaller. But influence also demands patience. Because trust grows slowly, respect grows slowly, relationships grow slowly. And in a world obsessed with speed, many people abandon the process too early. They want immediate loyalty, immediate recognition, immediate authority. But leadership is a journey, not an event. And influence compounds over time. Every promise kept, every act of kindness, every moment of integrity, every word of encouragement becomes another brick in the foundation of trust. And eventually, people begin to follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. Because influence cannot be commanded, it must be deserved. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of leadership. People may obey power, but they willingly follow influence. And those who understand this truth possess one of the most valuable gifts a human being can ever have: the ability to change lives, not through force, but through example.
One of the greatest differences between ordinary people and extraordinary leaders is the ability to see what others cannot. Because vision is more than imagination. It is more than optimism. And it is certainly more than wishful thinking. Vision is the ability to see possibilities before they become realities. And throughout history, every great achievement began inside someone's mind. Before there were airplanes, someone imagined flight. Before there were computers, someone imagined a connected world. Before there were great movements, someone imagined a better future. Because everything is created twice. First in the mind, and then in reality. But vision does something even more powerful. It gives meaning to struggle. Because suffering without purpose feels unbearable. But suffering connected to a meaningful vision becomes sacrifice. And sacrifice has the power to transform ordinary people into extraordinary individuals. This is why great leaders can endure difficulties that others cannot. Because they are not focused only on the present. They are focused on what the present can become. And perhaps that is one of the greatest gifts of vision. It allows people to live beyond their circumstances. Because circumstances are temporary. But vision creates direction. And direction creates hope. Without vision, people drift. They react to life instead of designing it. They become prisoners of today's problems instead of architects of tomorrow's possibilities. And perhaps this explains why so many people feel lost. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack direction. Because energy without direction creates frustration. Effort without direction creates exhaustion. And ambition without direction creates confusion. But vision changes everything. Because when people know where they are going, they can endure almost any obstacle along the way. And perhaps this is why leaders are dealers in hope. They help people see beyond fear, beyond uncertainty, beyond temporary setbacks. Because hope is powerful. Hope allows people to continue. Hope gives strength to tired hearts. Hope gives courage to frightened minds. And hope often begins with a vision. But vision also requires courage. Because not everyone will understand what you see. Not everyone will believe in your dreams. Not everyone will support your journey. And perhaps that is why leadership can feel lonely. Because leaders often see tomorrow, while others are still focused on today. But history has always belonged to those who dared to believe before evidence appeared. Because vision always comes before results. Faith always comes before rewards. And commitment always comes before success. Yet vision alone is not enough. A dream without action remains an illusion. Because great leaders do not simply imagine the future, they build it. One decision at a time. One habit at a time. One day at a time. Because vision gives birth to discipline. And discipline transforms possibilities into realities. And perhaps the greatest tragedy in life is not failing. It is living without something meaningful to pursue. Because a person with vision possesses something priceless. A reason to wake up, a reason to grow, a reason to persevere, and a reason to continue when others give up. Because vision is not about predicting the future, it is about creating it. And perhaps the future you desire already exists, not in reality, but in possibility, waiting for someone brave enough to believe in it and build it. The law of trust. Trust is invisible. You cannot touch it. You cannot measure it. And yet, it is one of the most valuable things a human being can possess. Because trust is the foundation upon which all relationships are built. Families are built on trust. Friendships are built on trust. Businesses are built on trust. And leadership itself lives or dies because of trust. Without trust, people become suspicious. Without trust, teams become divided. Without trust, communication breaks down. And eventually, everything begins to fall apart. Because trust is the invisible currency of human relationships. And perhaps this is why trust is so powerful. It multiplies everything. Talent becomes more effective when trust exists. Communication becomes easier when trust exists. Cooperation becomes natural when trust exists. But when trust disappears, even the smallest problems become enormous. Because people do not merely follow ideas, they follow people. And before they believe your vision, they must believe in you. Yet trust is strange. It takes years to build, but only seconds to destroy. One lie, one betrayal, one broken promise, and something precious begins to disappear. Because trust grows slowly, like a tree. And just like a tree, its roots remain hidden. Nobody sees the countless moments that create trust, the promises kept, the sacrifices made, the consistency demonstrated, the honesty practiced. But these invisible moments become roots, and strong roots create strong relationships. Perhaps that is why integrity matters so much. Integrity means being the same person everywhere, publicly, privately, when people are watching, and when nobody is watching, because character is revealed in the unseen moments. And eventually, what is hidden becomes visible. People may not discover the truth immediately, but time has a remarkable ability to expose everything, which is why appearances are fragile. But character is enduring. And perhaps this explains why some leaders rise quickly, yet fall even faster. Because charisma can attract people, but only character can keep them. And trust is born from character. People do not expect perfection. They understand that mistakes are part of being human, but what they seek is sincerity, humility, honesty, consistency. Because these qualities create safety, and human beings naturally trust those who make them feel safe. But trust is not only built through honesty, it is built through reliability. Can people depend on you? Do your actions match your words? Do you honor your commitments? Because promises create expectations, and expectations shape trust. Every promise kept strengthens relationships. Every promise broken weakens them. And eventually, people begin to decide, can this person be trusted? Can this person be relied upon? Can this person lead? Because leadership without trust is merely management. But leadership with trust creates loyalty. And loyalty cannot be purchased. It must be earned. The greatest leaders understand this. They know that trust is more valuable than popularity, more valuable than authority, and even more valuable than talent. Because talent may impress people, but trust keeps them together. And perhaps this is why trust is so rare. Because trust requires patience, it requires humility, and above all, it requires consistency. Day after day, year after year, choice after choice. Because trust is not built through grand gestures. It is built through small acts repeated consistently. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. People may admire your intelligence. They may respect your achievements. They may even envy your success. But if they trust you, they will follow you. Because trust is not simply a part of leadership. Trust is leadership, the discipline behind great leaders. People often admire greatness. They admire success. They admire confidence. They admire achievement. But rarely do they admire the process that creates these things. Because greatness looks attractive, but discipline looks ordinary. And perhaps that is why so many people pursue results, while ignoring the habits that produce them. They want success without sacrifice, respect without responsibility, influence without consistency. But life rarely rewards intentions. Life rewards actions. And actions repeated consistently become habits, which is why discipline is so powerful. Because discipline transforms potential into reality. Talent without discipline fades. Intelligence without discipline becomes wasted. Ambition without discipline becomes frustration. Because discipline is what bridges the gap between dreams and achievements. And perhaps this is why great leaders understand something that many people ignore. Motivation is unreliable. Some days you feel inspired. Some days you do not. Some days you feel strong. Some days you feel tired. And if your life depends on feelings, your progress will always be inconsistent. But discipline is different. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It asks what must be done. Because discipline is not emotional, it is intentional. And perhaps that is what separates leaders from followers. Leaders do not wait for perfect conditions. They act despite imperfect conditions. They do not wait for confidence. They create confidence through action. They do not wait for certainty. They move forward through uncertainty. Because they understand something profound. progress creates motivation, not the other way around. And perhaps this explains why small habits matter so much. Because life rarely changes overnight. Transformation is usually invisible. One decision, one routine, one promise kept. Repeated again and again, until ordinary actions begin producing extraordinary results. And perhaps this is why consistency is more powerful than intensity. Anyone can be motivated for a day. Anyone can work hard for a week. But greatness belongs to those who remain faithful to the process, month after month, year after year. Because success is not built in extraordinary moments. It is built in ordinary days. And perhaps the most difficult part of discipline is that its rewards are delayed. You exercise today, but the results appear later. You study today, but the benefits appear later. You make sacrifices today, but the rewards appear later. Which is why many people quit too early. They become discouraged, they lose patience, and they abandon the process, without realizing that success often arrives just beyond the point where most people give up. Because life compounds. Small actions compound, habits compound, decisions compound. And eventually, the person who appeared ordinary becomes extraordinary. Not because they were gifted, but because they remained committed. And perhaps commitment is one of the rarest qualities in modern life. People commit when it is easy, but great leaders commit when it is difficult. When nobody applauds, when nobody notices, when progress feels invisible. Because discipline is not tested during good times. It is tested during hard times. And adversity reveals character. It reveals priorities. It reveals who we truly are. Because pressure does not create character. Pressure reveals character. And perhaps that is why difficulties are valuable. Because challenges expose weaknesses, and weaknesses create opportunities for growth. The greatest leaders are not those who avoid hardship. They are those who grow through hardship. Because every obstacle teaches patience, every failure teaches humility, and every struggle teaches resilience. And resilience is one of the greatest assets a leader can possess. Because leadership is not a sprint, it is a lifelong journey. A journey that rewards endurance more than excitement, consistency more than intensity, and discipline more than talent. And perhaps, when history remembers great leaders, it is not remembering their moments of inspiration, it is remembering the countless ordinary days when they chose discipline over comfort, responsibility over excuses, and growth over convenience. Because greatness is not an event, it is a habit, and habits shape destinies. The power of serving others. Perhaps one of the greatest paradoxes in life is that those who seek to be served rarely become great leaders. But those who dedicate themselves to serving others often leave the greatest legacy. Because leadership has never been about status. It has never been about superiority. And it has never been about being above people. True leadership is about lifting people, helping people, believing in people. Because at its heart, leadership is an act of service. Yet modern society teaches a different message. It celebrates power, recognition, titles, prestige, and influence, as though greatness is measured by how many people serve you. But history tells a different story. The leaders who changed the world were often those who gave more than they received, who sacrificed more than they demanded, who cared more than they controlled. Because people may admire power, but they are inspired by service. And perhaps that is because human beings never forget those who help them. They never forget those who encourage them. believed in them, supported them, or stood beside them during difficult times. Because kindness creates memories, and service creates trust, and trust creates influence, which is why service is one of the most powerful forces in leadership. But service requires humility, and humility is rare, because the ego constantly seeks recognition. It seeks praise. It seeks importance. But humble leaders understand something extraordinary. Leadership is not about shining brighter than others. It is about helping others shine. Because insecure leaders create followers, but secure leaders create leaders. They do not fear the success of others. They celebrate it. They nurture it. And they multiply it. Because their goal is not control. Their goal is growth. And growth always requires generosity. Generosity with time. Generosity with patience. Generosity with encouragement. Because sometimes, the greatest gift you can offer another human being is belief. Belief in their potential. Belief in their dreams. Belief in their future. And perhaps that is why great leaders become unforgettable. Not because they possessed extraordinary talents, but because they made ordinary people feel extraordinary. They saw possibilities that others could not see. They recognized strengths that others overlooked. And through encouragement, they changed lives. Because words have power. Words can destroy, but words can also heal. Words can discourage, but words can also inspire. And perhaps one sentence, one conversation, one act of kindness can alter the direction of someone's life forever. Because service is rarely dramatic. It is often quiet, invisible, and unnoticed. But the most valuable things in life usually are. No one applauds patience. No one celebrates sacrifice. No one notices consistency. And yet, these are the very qualities that build lasting greatness. Because greatness is not measured by how many people work for you, but by how many people are better because of you. And perhaps that is the true meaning of leadership. Not fame, not power, not recognition, but impact. Because long after titles disappear and achievements are forgotten, people remember how you made them feel. They remember whether you brought hope, whether you offered encouragement, whether you helped them grow. Because influence fades, success fades, even accomplishments fade. But kindness leaves echoes. And those echoes sometimes outlive generations. Which is why the greatest leaders never ask, "How much can I gain?" Instead, they ask, "How much can I give?" Because they understand a truth that few people ever discover. Life becomes meaningful when it becomes bigger than yourself. And leadership becomes powerful when it becomes an act of service. Because in the end, people will not remember how important you were. They will remember how important you made them feel. Building strong relationships. Human beings are wired for connection. We long to be understood, to be valued, to belong. And perhaps this is why relationships are among the most important things in life. Because no matter how talented you are, no matter how intelligent you are, and no matter how ambitious you are, you cannot succeed alone. Because leadership has never been about controlling people. It has always been about connecting with people. And connection begins with understanding. Yet many people spend their lives trying to impress others, trying to appear stronger, smarter, more successful. But people are not looking for perfection. They are looking for authenticity. Because authenticity creates trust, and trust creates relationships. Perhaps that is why the greatest leaders are often the greatest listeners. They understand that listening is not merely hearing words. It is understanding emotions, understanding fears, understanding dreams, Because people want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel that they matter. And perhaps one of the greatest gifts you can give another person is your attention, because attention communicates value, and value strengthens relationships. Yet relationships require something many people struggle to give: time. Because meaningful relationships are never built instantly. Trust grows slowly, respect grows slowly, and love grows slowly. Just like trees. Strong roots require patience, and perhaps this is why shallow relationships are so common. People want instant connection, instant loyalty, instant understanding. But human relationships do not obey the laws of speed. They obey the laws of consistency. Small moments, small conversations, small acts of kindness, repeated over time, eventually create something extraordinary. Because relationships are built in ordinary moments, not extraordinary ones. And perhaps this explains why empathy is so powerful. Empathy allows people to feel understood. It allows them to feel accepted. And acceptance creates safety, because people flourish where they feel safe. And leaders who create safety create loyalty. But relationships also require humility, because pride destroys connection. Pride insists on being right. Humility seeks understanding. Pride creates distance. Humility creates closeness. And perhaps this is why humility is one of the rarest qualities in leadership, because the ego seeks superiority, but love seeks connection. And connection always wins, because human beings rarely remember what you accomplished, but they remember how you treated them. They remember your kindness, your patience, your encouragement, because emotions leave memories, and memories create bonds. But relationships are not always easy. Misunderstandings happen. Disagreements happen. Disappointments happen. Because imperfection is part of being human. And perhaps this is where forgiveness becomes powerful, because resentment destroys relationships, but forgiveness restores them. Not because people always deserve forgiveness, but because peace is more valuable than pride. And perhaps one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to value people more than being right. Because in the end, relationships are more important than arguments, more important than ego, and often more important than success itself. Because success without meaningful relationships feels empty. Achievements without love feel lonely. And wealth without connection feels meaningless. Which is why wise leaders invest in people. Because people are life's greatest treasure. And perhaps the quality of your life will ultimately be determined by the quality of your relationships. Because leadership is not built on authority, it is built on trust. And trust is built on relationships. Because people rarely follow those they cannot connect with. But when people feel understood, valued, and respected, something remarkable happens. They willingly walk beside you. Not because they have to, but because they want to. And perhaps that is the true power of relationships. Not control, not authority, but connection. Because in the end, leadership is not about managing people. It is about loving people and helping them become more than they believed possible. The courage to make difficult decisions. Leadership is not defined by popularity or comfort, but by the ability to take responsibility when situations become uncertain, complex, or even painful. In this chapter, we explore one of the most important traits of effective leaders: the courage to make difficult decisions. Many people in positions of authority avoid hard choices because they fear conflict, criticism, or failure. However, true leadership begins when you are willing to face uncomfortable truths and act despite emotional pressure. A leader cannot always choose what is easy. They must often choose what is right. Difficult decisions usually appear in moments of tension. Reducing costs in a struggling business, removing underperforming team members, changing a failing strategy, or standing against popular opinion. These decisions may not be welcomed in the short term, but they often determine long-term success or failure. One of the biggest challenges for leaders is emotional attachment. It is easy to delay decisions when they involve people we like, projects we invested in, or ideas we once believed in. But delaying action often makes problems worse. Courageous leadership means recognizing that inaction is also a decision, and often the most damaging one. Great leaders do not act impulsively. Instead, they gather information, analyze consequences, and then commit fully once a decision is made. What separates them from average leaders is not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. Another key lesson is accountability. When a difficult decision leads to failure, a strong leader does not shift blame. Instead, they take responsibility, learn from the outcome, and adjust their approach. This builds trust within teams and strengthens leadership credibility over time. Ultimately, courage in decision-making is what transforms leadership from theory into action. Without it, even the best strategies remain ideas on paper. With it, leaders shape direction, solve problems, and move organizations forward, even through uncertainty. Key takeaway: leadership requires the courage to choose what is necessary, not what is comfortable. Difficult decisions define the strength of a leader more than easy victories ever will. The power of consistency in leadership. Leadership is not defined by one great action, but by consistent actions over time. Many people can perform well once. Many can show motivation for a short period. But only true leaders remain consistent, even when motivation disappears. Consistency is what builds trust. When people know that you will act the same way tomorrow as you do today, they begin to rely on you. Without consistency, leadership becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability destroys confidence. Strong leaders do not depend on emotions. They depend on systems, discipline, and habits. Even on difficult days, they show up. Even when results are slow, they continue. Even when no one is watching, they stay committed. Because leadership is not about intensity, it is about endurance. And in the long run, consistency always beats talent without discipline. The real power of a leader is not in what they do occasionally, but in what they do repeatedly. True leadership is built on consistency, not moments of intensity. Listen to me carefully. Don't confuse comfort with progress. Don't lie to yourself thinking you still have time while you waste your potential day after day. No leader ever became great by waiting for motivation. No successful man ever built anything by avoiding discomfort. And no dream was ever achieved by someone who kept choosing the easy path. I'm not angry with you. I'm disappointed in the version of you that knows what to do, yet keeps postponing it. Because deep down, you already know the truth. You are not confused. You are just inconsistent. You are not incapable. You are just avoiding discipline. You are not unlucky. You are just undisciplined with your decisions. And listen, life does not reward intentions. It rewards actions repeated over time. So stop negotiating with yourself. Stop asking for more signs. Stop waiting to feel ready. Because while you're hesitating, someone else with less talent, but more discipline, is already building the life you keep imagining. I don't want perfection from you. I want honesty. And then action. Stand up. decide. And don't betray your own potential again. Because one day, you will either thank yourself for your discipline or regret every moment you chose comfort over growth. And that choice is always yours.